24시간 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News. South Korea raises its disaster response to level 2 alert as Typhoon Khanun is expected to land on the country this week, packing strong winds and heavy rain. Starting tomorrow, all participants of the World Scout Jamboree are to evacuate from the Saemangeum campsite as Typhoon Khanun approaches South Korea. The government plans to provide accommodation to the scouts in the greater Seoul area. Japan could release wastewater from its crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the ocean as early as this month. The exact date is likely to be announced after the country's summit with South Korea and the U.S. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with the latest on Typhoon Khanun that's projected to make landfall in the south of the country later this week. According to the Ministry of Interior and Safety, as of 6 p.m. on Monday, the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters had issued a Level 2 disaster readiness alert. This means the response readiness is expanded nationwide. The sixth typhoon of the season is expected to move northward and make landfall in Busan on Thursday morning. On Sunday, Typhoon Khanun was projected to move through Okinawa, Japan, and Taiwan before heading northeast towards eastern China. But on Monday, the forecast changed. All participants are to leave the World Scout Jamboree's Saemangeum campsite as Typhoon Khanun approaches the Korean peninsula. The government is coming up with contingency plans, including providing accommodation to the scouts in the greater Seoul area. Our Choi Soo-young has the details.
On Monday morning, the 7th day of the 25th World Scout Jamboree in Saemangeum, the world organization of the Scout movement made a decision to expedite the departure of all participants from the campsite due to the anticipated impact of Typhoon Khanun. According to officials, the Scout teams are expected to depart the campgrounds gradually, starting at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 8th. Over 1,000 buses, interpreters, police officers and emergency service personnel will be mobilized to move the scouts safely. On the 6th day, the Korean Meteorological Administration stated that Typhoon Khanun was projected to move through Okinawa, Japan and Taiwan before heading northeast toward the eastern part of China. However, on August 7th, it was forecasted to pass the northeastern waters of Okinawa and make landfall in Busan on the 10th before crossing through Korea. Considering the predicted path of the typhoon, it is expected to affect the Saemangeum Jamboree site in Busan County, Jeollabuk province from Wednesday. The World Scout organization said they made this decision to prioritize the safety of all the participants and continued its close collaboration with the Korea Scout Association and the South Korean government. South Korean government informed that they will soon provide a contingency plan for the departure and the venues that will host the participants. The accommodations and venues for the remaining events will be relocated to various places in Seoul and the metropolitan area, including university dormitories in downtown Seoul, corporate training facilities and sports complexes. Furthermore, organizers say that the K-pop concert could take place on Friday, August 11th, and the closing ceremony the day after at Seoul World Cup Stadium. But nothing has been confirmed yet. The government says it will take every effort to expedite the departure plan and provide all necessary resources and support for participants during their stay and until they return to their home countries safely. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Young scouts will have the opportunity to explore Korean culture in the capital, Seoul, and other areas of the country. This as South Korea prepares alternative tour programs and cultural performances for the World Scout Jamboree. Our Song Yu-jin has the details.
South Korea is scrambling to support the heat-struck World Scout Jamboree in Saemangeum. Cities across the country are stepping up with an array of tour programs. This comes after President Yoon Suk-yeol on Sunday ordered relevant government officials to coordinate alternative tours for the participants.
The president ordered to make sure scouts from the UK and the US who are staying in Seoul and Pyeongtaek continue on with their programs there. Also, 17 cities and provinces have proposed 90 cultural programs for scouts.
The British Scouts took part in a nighttime bus tour of Seoul organized by the city government on Sunday. 155 teenagers toured some of the city's key landmarks, including the Banpo-daegu Bridge and Seoul Tower and Cheonggyecheon Stream. The city will also offer trekking tours and water sports programs. The city of Pyeongtaek in the Gyeonggi-do province is putting on taekwondo and K-pop performances for the American Scout members. The southern port city of Busan is planning a bus tour around the famous Haeundae Beach and Taejongdae Park. There's also the iconic Boryong Mud Festival on the East Coast. A visit to an astronomical observatory and the National Science Museum at the country's tech capital, Daejeon. And a look around UNESCO heritage sites like the Bulguksa Temple in Gyeongju City of Gyeongsangbuk-do Province.
We've also prepared accommodation for scouts to stay elsewhere for 2 or 3 day schedules.
Meanwhile, the government has dispatched additional medical staff, air-conditioned buses, and cold water to the campsite. A total of over 330 air-conditioned buses are available, and 1,400 service personnel are working at the site. Numerous Korean companies have lent a helping hand. They include Samsung affiliates who've chipped in with mobile toilets and power generators, and LG, Hyundai, and E-Mart contributing drinks and snacks for the staff on site. 송유진, Arirang News.
Amid concerns over a sexual harassment allegation at the World Scout Jamboree, officials have announced that the alleged perpetrator has been separated from the victim. Gender Equality and Family Minister Kim Hyun-suk, who's a co-chair of the organizing committee, made the announcement on Monday, adding that an additional investigation is currently underway. This follows news that some 80 South Korean scouts from the Jeollabuk-do Province Scout Association decided to leave the Jamboree campsite, claiming that a man from Thailand allegedly walked into the female's shower room last Wednesday. However, the police say the man insists he was taking a shower because it was too hot and say it's still unclear whether he had sexual intentions. The association had earlier complained about the organizers issuing only a warning. South Korea's capital, Seoul, has been selected to host the next Catholic Youth Festival in 2027. Lee Seung-jae has more on the significance of this selection.
At the closing mass for the 2023 World Youth Day in Lisbon, Portugal, Pope Francis announced the host city for the next World Youth Day.
The next World Youth Day will take place in Asia. It will be in South Korea, in Seoul.
The World Youth Day brings together young people from around the world in celebration of their Catholic faith. The massive event runs for 5 or 6 days, with the reigning Pope also in attendance. Seoul will become the first Asian city to host the event since Manila in 1995, where over 5 million people attended the event's closing mass. Seoul's Archdiocese estimates that around 700,000 to 1 million Catholics will be in attendance for the Seoul World Youth Day, with 300,000 traveling to South Korea.
Since in the past 3 years we have undergone a COVID situation in Korea, sadly the number of people going to church in Korea has declined. And we sincerely hope that throughout preparations and also during World Youth Day, it will be a great opportunity to develop and mature our youth ministry. So that's what I am hoping for as our journey begins for the preparation for World Youth Day.
The announcement comes as Cardinal Andrew Yam-Soo-jung and Archbishop Peter Jung-Sung-taek of the Seoul Archdiocese traveled to Lisbon last Monday to make a pitch for Seoul. Cardinal Lazaro Yu-Hung-sik, prefect of the Congregation for the Clergy of the Holy See, and Oh Hyun-ju, the South Korean ambassador to the Holy See, also took part in the pitch. The event is also expected to provide a massive boost to the local economy. The Lisbon World Youth Day is expected to have been worth about $622 million. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Japanese media outlets say the wastewater released from the tsunami-wrecked Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean could begin as early as this month. The South Korean government says it's up to Japan to make that final decision. Bae-eun-ji reports.
Japan plans to start releasing wastewater from its Fukushima nuclear power plant as soon as late August, according to Japan's Yomiuri and Asahi Shimbun. Citing unnamed government sources, Monday's report said the release will likely come shortly after Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida meets with U.S. President Joe Biden and South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol in Washington next week, where Kishida is expected to explain that the water is indeed safe. They also said Tokyo plans to start the discharge process before bottom trawling fishing season begins in waters off Fukushima on September 1st. In response, an official from the South Korean government said in a press briefing on Monday that the exact timing of the discharge is not something that has been officially discussed between the two countries, but added that it's up to Japan to make the final decision.
It's for Japan to decide when it should start releasing the water. But we've told them there are some technical issues through our scientific report on the matter. So Japan will likely make the decision after a comprehensive review, including looking at concerns from neighboring countries.
In the meantime, officials from South Korea and Japan held a virtual working-level meeting on Friday to further discuss Seoul's request regarding the wastewater discharge plan. The two sides held their first round of working-level talks in Tokyo in late July, after President Yoon asked Prime Minister Kishida to include South Korean experts in monitoring the Fukushima wastewater release. Bae-eun-ji, Arirang News.
South Korea postpones its plan to ease COVID-19 restrictions amid an increasing number of new cases over the past 6 weeks. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency had planned to downgrade the infectious disease classification for COVID-19 from level 2 to level 4, the lowest designation and equal to that for influenza. Classifying it as a level 4 disease would have lifted the remaining mask-wearing mandate at medical facilities, and COVID-19 patients would no longer require monitoring by the government. South Korea has seen a daily average of over 50,000 COVID-19 cases in the past week, which is expected to shoot up to over 70,000 in mid-August. South Korea is expected to see this summer's highest power demand so far over the next 2 days. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy said on Monday that electricity demand nationwide would peak at 92.9 gigawatts from today through Tuesday afternoon. Experts attributed this to Typhoon Khanun raising temperatures as it approaches the country alongside businesses returning to full operation after summer breaks. Responding to the expected record-high demand, the government is running an emergency system and has secured sufficient electrical capacity with more than 11 gigawatts of reserve power. Korea's core inflation rate posted its highest on-year rise during January to July this year since 1998 Asian financial crisis. According to Statistics Korea on this Monday, the rate, which excludes food and energy prices, rose 4.5% on-year during the first 7 months of 2023. Officials are linking the surge to greater expenses of dining out as well as greater costs of raw materials amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine. South Korea's state-run think tank says the country's economy is seeing signs of gradual recovery after hitting its lowest point, mainly driven by stronger semiconductor exports. Our Park Gun-woo explains.
South Korea's economy is recovering from its recent contraction, mainly as outbound shipments of semiconductors are rising big. This is according to the monthly Economic Trends report released by the Korea Development Institute on Monday. The report added that the semiconductor export volume saw an on-year increase of 21.6% in June. This was a huge hike compared to the past 2 months, as it increased 8.1% in May, while it saw a decrease of 1.3% in April year-on-year. Along with the robust exports, smaller retreats in chip production and lower inventory rates are attributed to the expansion of the nation's economy. The KDI's report also noted that South Korea's overall industrial production recorded an on-year increase of 1.1% in June. In particular, service production rose once again by 3.5% compared to the same period last year after rising 1.9% in the previous month. However, the institute warned about certain global concerns that could possibly lead to the world economic slowdown. Those concerns include rising commodity prices, followed by the most recent crude oil hikes, and China's slower-than-expected economic rebound due to the base effects. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
Shifting gears. Longtime farmers complain of farmer syndrome, describing the pain in their backs and knees from working on their crops over many years. The latest technological application to smart farming introduces a way for farmers to work while standing, which can reduce the farmer's pain as well as increase productivity. Yoon-jin reports.
This farmer grows sesame leaves on Jeju Island. Having done so for decades, the work has been breaking down his body and health by what's being called farmer syndrome.
I have to work squatting all day, and once the plant grows, I have to bend over, so it's a lot of strain on my back.
This is a lettuce cultivating house in Jeju. All the lettuce here is very green, meaning good commercial value. That's made possible because IT technology is used instead of humans to control the temperature as well as the supply of water and nutrients. What's also unique is that the lettuce is grown on cultivation plates that are elevated 80 centimeters from the ground, which not only reduces labor, but also the strain on farmers' backs and knees. So once a batch of lettuce is harvested, it is also easier to plant new seedlings, making it easier to increase production and hence income. This latest system makes it very suitable for farming areas that suffer from an aged population and shortage of labor.
We plan to apply the system to other produce like strawberries and distribute it not only around Jeju Island but also to the mainland. It'll help with the shortage of workers and aging farmers.
The obstacle that stands in the way is the initial installation costs.
The installation fee is burdensome for us farmers. So when this system is introduced, I think there needs to be support and assistance from public institutions.
If the problem of initial installation costs can be resolved, this new smart farm technology is expected to help rural areas suffering from an aging population as well as labor shortages. Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
The Korean authorities are now tightening security at local airports following a series of online posts threatening terror attacks. In the meantime, the Justice Minister says he'll make efforts to take some burden off the nation's police from using necessary force to stop attackers. Our Kim Do-yeon has more.
As South Korea continues to recover from recent violent attacks in public places and with threats of similar attacks being made online, the nation's airports have become targets. According to Incheon International Airport Corporation and Korea Airports Corporation on Monday, 5 airports in the country have received threats so far. The police is investigating a threat made towards Incheon International last week, which said that there is a bomb in the terminal and if people evacuate, they'll be run over by a truck. Jeju, Daegu, Gimpo, and Gimhae airports have all been the subject of terrorism threats online. Authorities say they have carried out security checks on them all and have found nothing of concern. They're also tracking the authors of these posts, but with the posts being done through a different IP address from overseas, it's taking the investigators some time. Despite no signs of actual danger, the situation has prompted the security around airports to be tightened, with Incheon Airport raising its vigilance level from attention to caution, increasing patrols and tightening employee identification at entries and exits. The KAC has reinforced patrols and security at 14 airports under its jurisdiction since Sunday afternoon. Meanwhile, as citizens recover from the shock of random attacks in public places, Justice Minister Han Dong-hoon has ordered the nation's prosecution to actively apply self-defense and justification rules for police and others using force to protect citizen safety. Growing concerns over safety have led to issues of police holding back from necessary physical confrontation, fearing punishment. This also comes as the nation's chief police officer recommended police officers use guns and tasers to take down a violent attacker. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Air Force training continues amid the sizzling summer conditions here in Korea. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung takes a look at some of the unit's ways of beating the heat.
An F-15K fighter jet has just finished flying and is making its way to the shower to cool off. In the sweltering hot summer, it is important to cool off the heated jets and rinse off any salt formed when flying over the sea. While the jets cool down, pilots have to endure an apparent temperature of over 50 degrees Celsius under their pilot suits.
Fighter pilots fight head-on against the rays of the hot midsummer sun under a transparent canopy. I know that I have sweated a lot when I see my wet uniform.
Airmen and airwomen also get a short breather from the scorching heat while enjoying some papbingsu, Korean shaved ice dessert with red beans. But they are again quickly drenched with sweat as they load heavy missiles weighing more than 160 kilograms.
We are provided with short sleeves, so I wear those. There are also portable air conditioners, so I try to work while avoiding the heat.
The Air Force said it is working hard to prevent heat-related illnesses by implementing flexible flight times during heat waves at the commander's discretion. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Over in Austria, Korea's Yoon Han-yeol won the 2023 Herbert von Karajan Young Conductors Award this past Sunday. Now, Yoon is the first Korean to have garnered this honor, rising above competitors from Belarus and Austria. He wins a cash prize of $16,500 and also the opportunity to conduct a concert with the Vienna Radio Symphony Orchestra and a rising young soloist as part of the 2024 Salzburg Festival. The Herbert von Karajan Award is considered a launchpad for a conductor's international career. Photographs of the twin pandas born at Everland's Panda World in South Korea last month have now been revealed. The two females weighed 180 and 140 grams at birth on July 7th, but now, just 1 month on, they're more than 6 times that. Zoo officials say the twins are in good health and have begun to develop their eyesight. They don't have names yet, as this is something that usually happens after 100 days due to their low survival rate. Visitors are expected to be able to go and see them when they're 6 months old. The twins are the younger sisters of Fubao, the first giant panda naturally bred in Korea.
Scorching hot conditions will continue on for most regions, but for parts of the east, rain is in the forecast until tomorrow. For Gangwon-do province in particular, torrential downpours of up to 200 millimeters are expected. The surrounding regions, including the coastlines of Gyeongsang-do province, will see 5 to 60 millimeters. There are some changes made to the pathway of Typhoon Khanun. As of the current forecast, it is set to make landfall on South Korea's southern coastline later this week around Thursday. The entire nation will be under the influence of this typhoon, with nationwide rain and strong winds. And tropical nights will continue for most regions. Seoul and Busan will be starting off at 27 degrees. Showers will become more widespread by the daytime. Seoul will get up to 35, Gwangju 37, Daegu and Busan will be reaching 34 degrees. With nationwide rain for the latter half of the week, the intense heat will take a brief respite. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all for this Monday night newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news. Hope everyone has a good start of the week.